How's it going, everybody? It's Krusty Old Crow back doing a tactical perspective special on my very first gridiron purchase for my G.I. Joe classified collection and 6-inch figure collection. I am going to be talking to you today about the gridiron Phalanx armored personnel carrier, as well as the gridiron Phalanx infantry fighting vehicle, the IFV and APC variants of this gridiron beast of war, which I affectionately and knowingly referred to as a light armored vehicle, a LAV. If you guys have been following my channel for long enough, you know that I am, yes, an ex-armored soldier with the Canadian Armed Forces, and I did my time with a reconnaissance squadron, the Lord Strathcona Horse Royal Canadians, out of Edmonton, Alberta. I also did time with the Royal Canadian Dragoons out of Petawawa, Ontario. It's not stuff I really like to push that much details about on this channel because we're talking about toys, and I don't want to seem like a know-it-all and one of those guys be like, well, as a matter of fact. But this vehicle is one of those times where you're going to get that out of me. Why? Because I spent my career on the LAV platform. From my first deployment to my last deployment, one of these LAVs, or its grandfather or its father, was underneath my ass. And I've been in, several different countries performing my duties in these vehicles in my career. So when I saw that Gridiron had made one, and it was based off the LAV 6, which is the generation of LAV that came out upon my retiring from the Canadian Armed Forces, I felt such a deep connection. It wasn't a matter of what the price was anymore. It was a matter of how quickly could I get it here. And if you've been following the channel, it took its time, but here it is. And guys, I am going to do my review on this one based off my perspective and insights on this beautiful toy. And that's what it is. Toy. And I'm going to have fun showing you my way of reviewing this, because I acknowledge that there are some fantastic reviews of guys who have had this in their hands for a while and have had a lot of fun with it and said everything critical that needed to be said about it. But Crow don't roll like that. I'm going to play with this toy. You're going to watch me. Today, I'm going to crew up. I'm going to train up a new crew for this Phalanx, because these Joes that are in it, I bought them to display on my Joe shelf, and they shouldn't be hidden within such a masterpiece. But as close as this is to what we're going to get for ever seeing a HasLab G.I. Joe traditional APC, I can't have Joes in this. I will throw in some of my customs and my kit bashes into this after they are trained up on the needed skills to roll with a vehicle like this. If you guys like these kind of videos, make sure you hit that like, share, subscribe. So important for the channel, and you guys have been great about that so far, so thank you. And we're going to start off reviewing this thing not in our normal tactical perspective. No file card. I'm the file card, okay? We're going to do, instead of a head to toe, we're going to do positions. We're going to see how we train up that driver, how that we train up that gunner, that air sentry, and of course, lastly, that crew commander. And we'll talk a little bit about it and have fun with it and show you just what Gridiron provided us to really capture in the feel of those positions in this vehicle. So we'll see you as I get going on this. Oh, let's just make this relatable by following the typical career path of a Canadian armored soldier. So we'll go with this this anonymous private here. We'll call her Private Heckler. Private Heckler is going to start her forces career as LAV crew, and she's going to start as a driver, as most of us do. It's the first basic skill set you get taught. You can see Clutch and Cover Girl are going to teach her responsibilities as driver and maintainer of this vehicle. That's right. Driver's maintenance is important for her to learn, so it's a crash course. It's about 3 months long, and she'll complete a driver's circuit, but she'll get familiar with all the little nuances inside that vehicle from tip to stern, if you would. Here you can see Gridiron's done a wonderful job giving you some play features in here, giving you details in an interior. Those would be the climax controls, the startup options, and the circuit breaker panel, and a few other engine and instrument related components on the side there. But he's just done a generic job there, because you're not gonna break your back looking for realistic details on the internet to emulate when you've got some talent doing that for yourself there in a fictitious way, and he's done a good job. That steering wheel comes out so you can pose it in your hand of your character first and then slide it back in. That's something that the new Snowcat HasLab is boasting as well. You can see those vision slots on that hatch that was up. Those are empty. You can see right through them through lighting and whatnot. Some nice trim there. We'll get her to check all that out. You know, typically on the right you would have engine paneling, but you know, Mark's throwing in a joystick for what I think is the crew situational awareness monitors, the little cameras on the front. But as we roam through the vehicle, I'm just giving you a basic feel of some of the details that he slapped in the slide. I'm not going to talk about all the components, except those cameras are, like I said, crew situational awareness monitors. They are cameras that she can utilize in the driver's hole for night driving and things like that, but also relay the images to the people in the back, so an assault group would know what they're getting into, because she would show them via the cameras on the front there. You can also see those big D-rings on the front for lifting this thing via helo lift or skyhook or crane. And some good paint apps inside. Lots of room to play with that figure and set up lots of posing. And you can see even on top of the vehicle, there's space to seat figures comfortably. Get some good shots of the interior as best as I can as we move on now to some video. Just kind of overlaying, you know, right now, Cover Girl's just making sure those hubs are solid, they're not leaking, and the fluids are at the right level. But a driver would be responsible, like I said, for doing their DI on the whole vehicle. Thankfully, this one doesn't have any grease nipples on there, so she can go front to back in a few seconds there, paying attention to the under chassis and moving on to the rest of her training. The funny thing about the name Phalanx for this vehicle is that's very much how the armor works for this. It's all fits together like a puzzle. Like the Phalanx you learn about, the shield formation in the movie 300 that the Spartans used. Anyways, once a month this driver will be signing off on the condition of this Phalanx from tip to stern, front end to back end, everything from the engine to how the hatches operate to just minor defects. She'll be responsible for making sure it gets the maintenance it needs, even if she has to take it to maintenance itself and work with them for days on end to make sure that this thing is combat and road ready. Anyways, we'll move on now to the next progression in rank. Somebody who's been a driver for a couple of years and is now working as a air sentry, and that's the rear security of this vehicle. And listen, when there's not a section of infantry on board hogging up all the space, or pounds and pounds of pallets and pallets of kit back there, you know, Rhodey's got a good go. He's got all the space in the world as those seats fold up and down. Gridiron gave us lots of room for stowage in here, including a weapons rack, even threw in a couple of nice weapons with that, and lots of areas for you to put an assortment of kit and storytelling material inside. So Rhodey's got a good go, but he's got to learn some basic skills, and Footloose is going to teach him his responsibilities as the air sentry and overall security of this vehicle. They'll even bring in experts like Tripwire to teach the whole crew about their 5s and 20s drills when the vehicle's stopped in an IED and mine environment, and just the general responsibilities, both mounted and dismounted, that he might have, providing security for the Phalanx on the move in a hostile or unknown environment. And it's going to fall on Rhodey, not Heckler, to manage the space in the back, to make sure that all the kit is stowed securely and that there's enough space for everything that the mission requires. Weapons are in the proper state of function, have been tested and proven. All of that stuff falls on Rhodey. This is his part of the vehicle. That's his office, his space to work in, both above it and inside of it. Speaking of inside of it, let's give you some more interior views. Now, earlier you could see there was a red light going on. That was a nice little nod that Mark and the Gridiron Gang included in this to give you more interior lighting and tactical sense for your photos if you wanted to do that. But I'm showing you all the other little features he threw in there. Collapsible seating, stowage racks, weapon and kit bag. You know, you could use this as a bench for your guys to stand up on in their hatches, or for guys to sit on. It's got a lot going on for play here. From the right up in the driver's hatch all the way back, you're looking at a mass number of figures. You got one driver, but as I pan back here, we'll show you there's that engine compartment, some extra stowage. Here you can seat 2 more. That bench will allow you to seat 3 more, or 1 more if you want to stand 2 guys in the cupola, but 3. And then you've got 6 more seats in the back. It looks like, sorry, 5 more seats in the back. So about 5 to 11, somewhere in there. I
I stopped counting, you can get in there naturally. Now, you could squeeze more in there. But back to Rhodey, you can see he's getting some tips like where to keep certain calibers of ammo, you know, like, hey, keep your ammo back here, but make sure that the 25 mil and everything is accessible to those guys on the turret if we get the turret on here. And you can see all the crews helping out, making sure the water supply is put in a way that the dust isn't going to irritate it as much, things like that. Just these little crew nuances on how to pack a vehicle. Rhodey oversees all of that. Footloose is just teaching them how. And this is a good opportunity to show you how you could take those top pieces off where the hatches are off this vehicle and get access to your figures to pose them in the perfect ways that you want and just have a good look inside. You're not confined. You can get top angle shots and all that sort of stuff. A lot of consideration went into the layout of this. That's going to take away from whether it reflects a full-on armored lav or not. To some degree, to make room for the play factor that this is designed for, but it's an exemplary job. Here you can see that they've thrown in two types of anti-purse weapons there. You know, you've got your heavy machine gun and your saw, and that's cool. These can be used in a variety of positions throughout the vehicle, and all these posts are interchangeable with other gridiron collections that you have. I'll get into some other things that we're throwing in there as we go, but again, just an overall fun toy, complete with that up-down ramp feature, which is more simple than it should be. It really just is a lift it up and slide it down feature. Unfortunately, there's no way for Gridiron to capture the actual door that the labs have on the back that locks into position to allow it to be used for both a door and a ramp, but again, the play factor has to reside over this. You can't have this thing falling apart with too many loose pieces. And Mark's done a great job with these hatches and action provided scene places for you to enjoy your characters there. So you can see how easy it was to lift that and just enjoy a view of, you know, up to 10 figures back there in the APC mode. So I'll, you know, give you another shot. The driver's hatch is another access point. It doesn't come off though. It just lifts out beyond what it really needs to. But you can see the grooving setup for that turret if I want to put the turret on there once those hatches are off. Lots of removable features on here that I'll hopefully provide some shots of as you see how I put it together and whatnot. But overall, that covers two positions on this lav already, this Phalanx. We've talked about what the driver is going to be responsible for, how to look at her home, and we talked about what our sentry or Gib guy in back is looking at in his office. So now we're going to take a look at this APC top that they provided with the gunner and crew commander, for lack of better terms, places. This is where that red light lens housed is. It's very simple little thing that they painted black. It's just like any other novelty flashlight, but it's used very effectively and very nicely here. In fact, let's go back to when I unboxed it yesterday. Here it is, bare bones. You can see that I've got the hatches on it. You can see no weapons on it, no side anything. Gridiron stamps on their patented little weapon system mount. And there's the hatches up, out. There's that little light in there. And here I'm showing you the weapon they provided, this Sentry gun with a 50 caliber mount and a tow missile attachment that fits onto their patented little mount for it. It's got movable smoke grenade dischargers in here. I was just feeling around kind of what weapons they provided me, and they provided me with a lot of play feature extras on this thing that you see me mounting throughout. And like I said, here's a picture of me and my APC, my Bison, back in Kosovo when I was an assault troop. Canada brought a lot of Bisons to it, and assault troops were mounted in it because it could hold up to 10 guys. That's why. And that's what I think of when I see this variant of the Phalanx. Unfortunately, for this variant, that's not what I'm going to focus on. Nope, fun as it is, I didn't buy this to be an APC or a reminder of the Bison. I bought it to remind me of my recce days and my times with C Squadron of Afghanistan in the LAV 3. So the Coyote in the LAV 3 is why I bought this gridiron turret to slap on this bad boy. And that gives me an opportunity to talk about the next two crew members, the last two crew members on this. That would be Corporal Muse, the gunner, who's worked their way up from the driver position through the rear position of the air sentry, or surveillance operator in the case of the Coyotes, and then is now working as a gunner and getting trained up to eventually become the crew commander of a vehicle of her own. And then, of course, Sergeant Jester, who is an experienced patrol commander, meaning he can command not only his own vehicle, but a junior call sign under him, will be your crew commander, and he's got nothing to prove on this one. He's very familiar with it. And together the four of them form call sign Rockstar, right? Because everybody's a rock star at the peak of their career. That's the terminology for it. So for Muse to join the Rockstars, she's going to have to get really familiar with these turrets. And, it's not like Jester can't teach her on his own, but of course we can enlist certain aid from other G.I. Joes like Rock and Roll and Heavy Duty and Roadblock. Anybody associated with armor gunnery could have taught this class, but it's better to have her crew commander do it because he's going to groom her again, like I said, to make sure that gunner eventually becomes their own crew commander. Showing you some function and appeal here. This is how you get the turret in there, but how you can also position your figures is you have some movable pieces to prevent things from falling out. You've got your knobs and dials and your control panels on here, but no realistic gunnery, and there's a good reason why. If Gridiron got into realistic gunnery with the shoots and the hard shoots and the M242 Bushmaster, upper and lower receiver, and all these other nods, it wouldn't allow them to have the play space they do. So relatively detailed, but very undetailed interior turret for good reason, but the details they include are fun, including this interchangeable barrel, because another reason they wouldn't commit to that particular M242 is because they want to be able to change that barrel, don't you? They're going to offer some different barrels. So we'll just show them as, Jester trains Muse on how to clean the guns. You get that coax, that 7.62 coax that slides in and out. I'm not taking it out because I don't want to have breakage. That is my lesson with this vehicle, is just be careful, guys. We are talking about 3D print. Well, it's sturdier than you might think. I did break one antenna already today. It is easily repairable with a bit of super glue, but there is some fragility on smaller parts that you don't want to force. So that's why I haven't removed the coax, but there you go. They've changed out, cleaned that barrel, done their counts, timed the cannon, all that. It's sincere, it's unsafe, it's good to go. They're ready to do their start modes and all that other stuff. But the Gridiron's also included this nice tow missile launcher, something that the Bradleys used in Iraq to great success. So they slapped it on another 25 turret for the Striker platform. The Striker is your U.S. name for the Canadian LAV, which was built by General Dynamics in London, Ontario. We have a division here in Ottawa, just blocks away from my house. But this is the other reason why I needed this. This is a Canadian vehicle. Therefore, Gridiron has made a tribute to a Canadian war vehicle. So, of course, the time I have on it is now being cherished because I have a toy to remind me, and that's why I bought this. Love the optics. A lot of play factor can be interchanged out with the piece that they gave us with the APC variant. But now this is an IFV, guys. This is an infantry fighting vehicle. The difference being APCs can drop off the loads of troops. That's its design, but it takes an infantry fighting vehicle to follow those troops through the battle zone and give them the support in combat. They move through the combat with a section of infantry, providing heavier support, armor, communications, and just good old boom, 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 right? So, loved picking this up. This was an extra add to the vehicle itself, a separate purchase, and was shipped separately. The vehicle was a 14-pound ship, and the turret was a 4-pound ship. They arrived within 5 days of each other, but customs did slow things up. That's not on Gridiron. Love showing you some of the interior detail, including their own emblem in there. And if you have a look at Jester, the crew commander, climbing in there, you'll see that free Gridiron helmet that Mark included because I purchased this whole set within the time frame earlier this summer. Now, guys, in the interest of time and watchability, I am really curbing a lot of things about this vehicle. I could talk about great lengths and compare it to millions of different stories from my time on the Lav 3 and the Coyote in particular. But let's just focus on this vehicle, and you'll notice that I'm not overloading it with figures inside because, to me, it's the exterior we're looking at. Once you have your figures inside for photography, you're probably going to take them out anyways. It can house 10 inside, but with the turret, you're going to reduce that capacity capacity to maybe about 6. Either way, what I was saying about that interior is that it retained its play function and included enough detail. You could have overwhelmed it, especially here in the turret with the ammo bins, with too much detail, and you would have lost playability. So what they did with it was phenomenal. So of course, we got to get Muse trained up on all gunnery, and she's got to get brushed up on her pintle mount skills, as well as her coax, and of course her 3-round burst control, leading targets, head-on targets, and all the theory of gunnery classes she passed before are going to apply. But now she's going to learn about how to tactically move this wheeled light armored vehicle. It's not the same as driving tanks. You got to be smart about your ground, you got to be smarter about your tactics, and you got infantry in the back that are depending on you to fight your way to the target. So have fun digging up certain images just to show you just this thing is so rooted in the reality of the LAV platform, again by General Dynamics. It is a LAV 6 custom. Mark's done a lot with this. It's very, very playable. Everything he included here there at Gridiron was for the purpose of play, and I appreciate it. Do I want to rip this thing apart for not including weapon chutes and certain, other hatches and things like that, or APHIS or any of that stuff? No, absolutely not. I bought this to be a toy, and I bought this to be a nostalgic reminder. So he banged it out, including, beautiful little ads like this great little cam net that you can just use to help bolster your display. Backpacks, rifles, coax, pintle weapons, a tow missile launcher, a fancy tow missile launcher with a 50 cal and a sight system on it. It's all included. So I had a lot of fun playing with this, and I didn't want to gag it with a bunch of figures in the back to block my view and appreciation of it. I'd rather just show you how these guys progress through the ranks. So now Muse is a qualified gunner. Hooray! And so the Rockstars are complete in their Rockstar infantry fighting vehicle. Jester, Muse, Heckler, and Rhodey will be the people that join this thing on the shelf. I throw customs in there because my Joe displays are my Joe displays. This is a third party that I bought for myself, so might as well just throw some figures I made for myself in there. Guys, can't speak highly enough about this. So let's, before I get into grading, I'm just going to warn you off. Canadian consumers, just be prepared to pay the costs of what's going on in politics right now, getting this thing across the border, customs being more thorough with packaging so that everything gets looked at properly and make sure that it pays its proper duty and tariff accordingly. So just manage your expectations. You might notice Gridiron did put a post up about the international shipping, and it wasn't meant to deter anybody. It was only meant for people to look at this thing with a realistic sense. It's a very heavy vehicle. It's a very detailed vehicle. It's a very fun and expensive vehicle. Know what you're getting into. To have this configured the way I do was much like people would experience buying a Rumbler. I first had to buy the platform, which was the Phalanx, which was the juice of the squeeze, if you will. It's a large 2-foot-long vehicle with massive amount of spaces. And then I had to buy the turret, which was extra and large in its own right. But to me, it was well worth it. The amount of money I paid to get this here, while it was no small sum, all of it well spent, guys. Here's your grades for this one. TAC 5 out of 5, play 5 out of 5, and je ne sais quoi 10 out of 5. And this is me being extremely biased because I've lived in this vehicle to some degree a good portion of my life. So of course I'm going to get biased with it. And I make no apologies for that whatsoever. This would be if our friend Tony Figs was able to get his hand on a very realistic ambulance for the classified line, or if Woody got subs for the classified line, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, I have a very personal connection with this vehicle, as I do with another vehicle on its way, as I did have to get qualified on the tank in order for me to get my sergeants. So sad as that is, to a lesser extent, I also have a bit of a connection with the Leopard battle tank. So I have a Ramen Hunter on the way to do a similar review with that. But nowhere near the connection I felt immediately with this Phalanx. And this is what I mean, guys. Don't impulse buy these high-end items. If you're happy with your classified collection, good. Because there's nothing wrong with a classified collection for its own right. Third-party markets are fun to just change things up and give a different feel to things. And I can dip my toe in it because I can afford to. Well, for now at least. We'll just see how long this large toy obsession goes with the 6-inch classified line. Like I said, between this, the Snowcat, other things I have on the way. This is something I'm only really going to experience once, a vehicle that's 2 foot large and has this kind of connection, so I had to do it. But if you are serious about buying this one and you do live in Canada, you are free to email me using the link in the channel description. And I can give you a realistic breakdown of what you should expect. Because, quite honestly, I think Gridiron has done a spectacular job providing us with an APC that we might not see in the classified line. I think of the APC I had back in the 80s that I used to love as a child, and realized maybe HasLab won't get to that. And what I see from Gridiron with this vehicle, and again, that overseas connection I have to it, I'm not worried about it. I have this, and I paid for it, but it's worth it for me. I have zero regrets. Phenomenal piece of kit with so many different ads, so much nostalgia, so much play factor that, yeah, man. Like I said, 5/5, 10 out of 5. All right, guys, so we're coming to the end. Like I said, I could talk for hours and hours about this vehicle, tell you a billion stories and a billion little nuances about it, and just keep going until the video was unwatchable. So I want to kind of summarize this by saying, you see the size of this thing. It's a shelf monster. There's my Dragonfly. It's only slightly longer. This is definitely wider and heavier. All right. Yes, it can hold more than just troops inside. Your imagination is your boundary line there. All right. It's whatever you want to cargo. I definitely want to have my dock. I want to run this as an AM. Wish I could have more, but I can only afford not just financially one, but shelf space one. We are coming to that crux in the line where, like many people like me, we have to start getting pickier about what we get. But I am so happy with myself for having waited out on Gridiron and not jumping early on that line. I was very tempted by the Hound, but I did order the Awe Striker from Hasbro for my G.I. Joe collection. That's what it is. But when I realized the Phalanx was something that I doubt very much I would see Hasbro get around to finding their way to the APC that I had as a child, the amphibious carrier, I realized this was the perfect vehicle for me on so many different levels that I won't drown you in right now. But I was realistic, guys. I did spend a lot of time asking the questions. Can I afford this? Do I want this? Will I have room for this? Is it worth it? All ticks in the boxes, all right? So it's not that I'm not recommending Gridiron to people. I am just saying Gridiron will ask you for your patience because it takes a while for him to manufacture this stuff. Gridiron will test your wallet because it's heavy and it's got to cross borders for some people or great amount of distances. And I can see, and you can see it on the videos. If you guys watch A Punk with Toy or Tony Figs and others, it's addictive. There's a desire to keep building upon what is wonderful. Look at what people did with their vamps. I know for a fact, as I was looking at this, I had about 30 different items off the top of my head that I want to approach Mark and say, have you considered doing these items as add-on packages? Mark, be prepared. But fantastic vehicle, guys. I can't say enough about it. This is my centerpiece to my collection. My Hunter will join it, but this will be in the foreground for so many obvious reasons I keep overstating. Guys, I hope I kept it dumbed down enough. Not dumbed down, but I didn't overdo myself on this video with how much I love this thing just because of the career. You are looking at a fantastic toy. If you do commit the money to it, you will not regret it really much. The only criticism I do have on this thing that I wish would change is the bore holes for the ends of the weapons. Very realistic, very finite, but not compatible with so many other blast effects I do have out there, guys. Little nods to this, guys. If you're wondering what the difference in the jerry cans on the back are, all right? Fuel, so like diesel, right? And water, either clean water or gray water, and you would paint a color gray on this to say it's gray water, meaning used water, contaminated water, dirty water, right? Those are the two colors of cans they provided on there. The tow missile system is not something I was familiar with in my career. That's why you don't see me talking too much about it, nor do you see me talking about this with the 50 cal on there.
but the little MBGDs, it's cool. And what differences are on this vehicle, I just accept as needing to be there for the reasons of it's a 3D print and fragile, such as somebody might notice from their experience in the Canadian Armed Forces, where the MBGDs are located by the driver and not on the turret, right? If you remember or have seen, and if I've shown you in photos, the turret mounts are very fragile, little post pegs that wouldn't translate well to a 3D print. Also, Mark, I gotta point out, we would have more rings like that for the hoist because you need a crane to take these turrets in and out of a vehicle. So I needed another D-ring somewhere. Anyways, this sight system really impressed me. Camnet's really impressed me. I love that he molded in ammo cans in here to help with his print design, but also to give you places for your figures to step. So, fantastic vehicle. I am so happy I got this. Yeah, nothing more to say. Crow's out. Just kidding. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. See you next time. Now Crow's out.